the Florida Writer Podcast, a discussion about writing and other things.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Nissen, and today I am lucky enough to have with me Nancy Christie. Nancy, why don't you give me a 60-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you write?
Well, in 60 seconds, give or take, I'm a writer. In terms of income writing, I'm a freelance writer primarily for ad agencies. In terms of publication, I'm an author. I've got 5 books out. The latest one is releasing on the 5th of May. And I also write a lot of short stories and some essays. Basically, if I didn't have to earn a living, all I would do is write fiction, because that's really where my heart is. But because I have to earn a living, I work for ad agencies, which is fine. You know, that's fine. It's a good challenge. If people say, "What kind of writer are you?" I'm a fiction writer. You know, I love making up stories. That's just the bottom line.
What type of fiction? What's your genre?
It's considered, in terms of short stories, it's considered literary fiction. So some of them are more serious. Some of them are lighter, sillier. One of my latest ones is called Lucinda and the Christmas List. That was a really fun one. But yeah, the short stories they're primarily would be literary fiction. I'm also playing around with novels, because who cannot play around with novels? Those would fall under the women's fiction, not romance, but women's fiction. More lighthearted, because I don't think I could sustain the level of emotional intensity in an 80,000 word novel. I mean, I could technically, but I don't want to, because a lot of times my short stories take a lot out of me in terms of the emotional relationship I have with the characters. So I don't want to get that emotionally involved for 80,000 words. It would be very hard. It'd be hard for me, let's put it that way.
I have the same challenges. So my favorite genre is what I call flash memoir. And it's a sliver of my life in about 500 words or less. So just a single event that might happen in a 5-minute span or something. I've often sat down and thought, okay, I'm going to do my novel now, and I'll create this great outline. And I either feel like I don't have enough energy, bandwidth, in order to keep it going. But I often find that it's difficult to plot out. And maybe that's why people become pantsers.
And I have to admit, I am a pantser. I'm a pantser with my short stories. Sadly, I'm a pantser with the novels. I just finished doing revisions on the very first novel that I ever wrote. And that one, I can't even remember when I started it. Might have been 2010 or somewhere in there. I don't know. I can't remember. But anyways, I thought I was writing a short story, but when it hit like 30,000 words, I figured this is not a short story. And since then, I've drafted several other novels, and I can't sit there and plot them out. It's like, okay, if I know all this, why bother to write it? It makes it hard, though, to keep track of details. The details are killing me. So what I've done, I've tried like some different programs that are supposed to help you with all this. And I've been working in Word ever since Word first came out, right? And it's like, all right, if I've got to start messing around with a bunch of different programs, I'm going to get irritated. So I actually have fallen back on EndNotes. And as I'm working my way through the novel, and I want to remember, and I get to a point where it's like, okay, what did I say she liked to eat or whatever? I find it earlier in the manuscript, and I EndNote it. It is probably the least effective way of doing it, but you know what? It works for me. And then I have one Word file it's just like miscellaneous notes, because you need to keep track of how old a character is and that kind of stuff. But yeah, in terms of plotting, I mean, I may have a rough idea how it's going to turn out, but I do not sit there and do every plot point and, well, in this chapter, this is going to happen. It's kind of like, well, whatever, you know. So we'll see if any of them get published, then I'll assume that I did it right. And if they don't get published, well, at least I always have my short stories to fall back on.
I'll tell you, Nancy, it's just the undertaking of completing a novel is the journey in and of itself. And then I think anyone who can complete it is a winner, regardless of how far it goes with the publisher or with self-publishing. And so really, I admire all novelists. I totally admire all novelists, and particularly short stories, because short stories really are challenging to write because you have such a tight span of words to use. So you really have to be specific and careful about the ones you choose because you want the most impact.
Yes, yes. And you want to be careful also in terms of the details because it's so easy to go down a little side road with an interesting little segue, and it's like, okay, you're not writing a novel here. You need to there needs to be a single thread that you are following through the story. You know, don't start bringing in all of this extraneous stuff. Yes, it looks nice, but you're getting too getting a little too expansive, and you can't do that. So it's yeah, but for me, it is a more natural form of fiction for me to write. I just go that way, just automatically. It's if something turns into a novel, it's because I thought I was writing a short story and then it just grew. But generally speaking, I but you know what? It's fun too. Sometimes even with short stories to set yourself some technical challenges. I wrote one short story. It's not published, but where I use the word still, still, because that has different definitions. So I wrote an entire, very short story using that word with just two characters and different ways that the word figures into either the dialogue or the narrative. I thought it was turned out pretty good. I haven't submitted it anywhere. I think it's just sitting there. But that's the other thing with short stories. You can play around with some technical challenges, and every now and then I like to do that just for the heck of it to see if I could pull it off. You know, and it's I love to write. I mean, I do. It's sad. I really really love to write, and I just do it. You know, it is what it is.
I know that you love to write so much that you actually are the founder of the annual Celebrate Short Fiction Day. Can you give me a little information about what that is?
Yeah, that came out. I developed that when Traveling Left of Center, my first collection, was originally published in 2014 by another publisher. Now it's out through a different publisher. But I wanted not only some way, obviously, to market my book, but also it's like, everybody makes a big deal over novelists. And don't get me wrong, I am in awe of novelists. If I ever get one of mine published, I'll be thrilled. But it's kind of like when you tell people you write short stories, their reaction tends to be, oh, you must write short stories because you can't write a novel, right? I mean, we're like the redheaded stepchildren. So I wanted something to give it its own little umph, right? And they have something in England. I think it's in the summer short story week or something. But so then I tried to think, okay, when should I have it? So I decided I would have it in December because that follows National Novel Writing Month. But I also put it on the day, where it's the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year. So I kind of played off that, you got a long night ahead of you, read some short stories. I know that probably makes no sense at all. But so I created it, and then for the first couple years, actually had a physical event where I got some of my local short story writers. We got together at a bookstore. We each would read a short story out loud. But then the last 2 years, the challenge has been to find a good venue. There's not a whole lot around here. I may have a venue in mind for this coming December, but again, all the plans you made pre-COVID have now, gone down the toilet. So, but one of the things I am playing with is podcasting. So I'm thinking, okay, if we're still doing everything virtually, maybe I'll just do a virtual podcast for the entire day and have writers send me their little sections of their short story and post them all in one location. But it's just to kind of tell people that short stories have their own value. They're not something you do because you can't do anything else. Because you're right, they can be very hard to write. So they kind of deserve some attention, and they deserve their very own day. And that's why I came up with Celebrate Short Fiction Day.
Well, I think we need to make it a big thing, and so we need
Okay.
to help market that.
Hey, I can take all the help I can get.
So what inspired you to become a writer?
I was thinking about this because that's a question that you always get asked. You know that as well as I do. No matter what kind of writing you do, people, oh, why did you ever decide to become a writer? To be honest with you, I never decided to be a writer. I the first thing I ever wrote, I was in second grade, and I only know that because after my mother passed away, and I was going through the box of things my mother saved, she actually saved a copy of it. I mean, I made a cover for it and everything. But when I was growing up, you didn't watch a lot. There wasn't a lot of TV for kids. There was the Saturday morning cartoons. That was it. We did a lot of reading, and you played outside a lot. That was just the way it was. And a lot of playing outside involved making up stories. Let's pretend this. If you're playing in a kid's sandbox, let's pretend that we're in this kind of city, or let's pretend that, or whatever. If you're out in the woods, let's pretend that we're Indians or whatever. So this was a natural thing to do, is always to do the let's pretend, and writing became then a way of taking let's pretend to the next level. And I don't know, I never thought of being an author. That was never in my mind. And to tell you the truth, I never even cared much about the authors of the books that I wrote or that I read. As a kid, we were always reading books. To me, the authors weren't even real. It was the characters in the book who were real. I mean, if you would tell me that I could actually meet the Hardy Boys, I would be ecstatic. If you told me I was going to meet Franklin Dixon, who I think that was just a pseudonym anyways, I would say, who cares? To me, it was the characters who were real. I think being a reader and being allowed to really explore things through my imagination, writing just became a way to codify and solidify that in some form.
I have a personal story about meeting one of the Hardy Boys when they were on TV, but I'm not going to get into that. I do know what you mean. However, so I want to know what is your typical writing routine? I know you said you do some freelance, and then you're able to do the short stories. So and novel. I mean, so what is your normal day? How does your writing evolve around your normal day?
Oh, well, for years I've had the same routine. I am a creature of habit. Um, I since most of my day is involved with doing client work, I figured the only way I can make time for my own writing, because if I don't make time for my own writing, I'm a really unhappy person. I just know that I'm very unhappy. To me, there's my writing, and then there's work writing, and I have to have my writing. So what I do is I work in my home office. I'm usually in my home office by 5 in the morning, and I set aside a minimum of 30 minutes to work on my writing. Sometimes, if I don't have like major deadlines, I might push a little bit longer, but a minimum of 30 minutes that is devoted to my writing, because at that hour of the morning, none of my clients are up, and I'm on Eastern time, so none of my clients are up, and that way I don't feel guilty. If I can, I will devote a chunk of time on the weekend to it. If I can't, that's okay. As long as I do 30 minutes a day for my own writing, it's enough. And actually, the first draft of my first novel, I wrote it in a little over 90 days, 30 minutes a day. That was it. That's all. That was all the time I could squeeze because I had a lot of clients at that time, and so it was just 30 minutes every morning. And hey, you can 30 minutes is a findable time, but that's what my schedule is. I rarely work on my own writing during the day because I'm either doing client projects or looking for the next project because that's the only form of income I have, and I can't let that slide. I like to eat and I like to be able to turn the light switch on. So, better work on the client stuff.
Well, Nancy, this has been an absolutely enjoyable interview, and time has just gone so quickly. It is now time for me to find out how people can get in touch with you if they're interested.
Absolutely. The simplest way to get in touch with me, I mean, of course, I'm on social media, but I'm not a big social media fan. The best way to get in touch with me, go to my website, www.nancychristie.com, and send me an email. That's I am a firm believer in being available because I want people to be able to reach me. So shoot me an email because I will respond to emails. Social media, might be a while before I get back to answering that, but I do pay a lot more attention to my inbox than I do social media. So that would be the simplest way. And all the information is on there, everything about my books and everything else, and all the links to everything.
Are you ready now to switch to our rapid fire questions?
Shoot, I'm ready.
All right. Silver or gold?
Oh, silver.
Silver. Is that what you like to wear?
Yes.
How about your appliances? Are they also silver or gold?
No, they're actually black.
They're black.
They're black.
And I guess I was thinking of like the knobs of like your sink. I guess.
Oh, I see. All that. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Like on my towel bars and everything, it's all it's all the brushed. What is that? Brushed silver, whatever. I don't like that shiny brassy look. I like silver.
All right. What is your favorite season?
Fall going into winter.
Fall going into winter. You like the smell of the leaves and the colors in the trees.
Yeah, well, and also the way the trees look when the leaves start coming off, because that's when you see the elemental part of them.
Very true. And my third question, will you hold a reptile?
I have.
You have?
I was one when my kids were in school. There was a teacher in my daughter's elementary school who was very big on nature and everything. And it was, how you volunteer as a parent, right? And so just would happen that one of the days that I was volunteering, she brought snakes in. Now, what are you going to do? You're not going to stand there as a parent in front of all these little kids and go, oh, no, I can't do this. So I said, of course I will. Actually, he wasn't bad at all. He wasn't like, he wasn't bad at all. So I did it, and he didn't bite me. But yes, I have held a reptile. I bet you didn't think I was going to say that.
Well, you never know how people are going to answer some of these questions. So, Nancy, Christie, thank you so much for stopping by. This has been another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast with your host, Allison Nissen. Allison out. Nancy Christie is the founder of Short Fiction Day, an author and a novelist. For more information about Nancy, visit her on the web at nancychristie.com. For more information about the Florida Writers Association, visit us at floridawriters.net.